Hello and welcome to the Love and Compassion podcast with Giselle. We believe that love and compassion have the power to heal our lives and our world. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing content. On today's podcast, we'll be talking about self-love and self-compassion while parenting. My guest today is Mariah Kimball. Mariah will help you connect your mind, body, and soul to the love that fuels your earthly experience and allows you to reach your fullest potential and truest expression of love, which to her, they're all the same. Mariah has a well of experience, including a master's in the art of teaching, certifications in nutritional therapy, and other healing modalities such as Reiki and restorative yoga. Her intuitive connection to divine liquid love and her interpretation of ancient wisdom through the earth's crystal memories make her work incredibly potent. Please join me in welcoming to the show Mariah. Hi, Mariah.
Oh my goodness. Hello, hello. Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited and honored to be here with you today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being on the show. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and how you actually got to start doing this work?
Yeah, so I'm Mariah. I am been married to my husband for 11 years. We have a magnificent relationship that we're always looking to deepen and open to more love. We have two beautiful little girls, Claire, who is 8, and Juliet, who is 6, and they are incredibly little sensitive. And I myself love to do wild things like CrossFit and jujitsu. And I found myself in this work because I ignored so much of what made me me. And it really broke me. And I realized that I can be a parent and Mariah all at the same time and be true to myself and enjoy those things that make me different. But it took showing myself a lot of compassion and love and vulnerability, both with myself and with my husband, to kind of get to this place where life is really magical and full of a lot of love.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. I was
Yeah,
wondering if you could share a little bit about your experiences and your challenges with parenting and how that helped you be where you are right now.
I would love to. I became a parent 8 years ago. And with my first kiddo, it was so easy. Damn it. It was so easy. She would just breathe and I'd be like, oh, she needs food or a diaper. Like I just knew, like there was this connection to Claire that it really, I can't even explain it. I was like, I'm a good mom. Like I give myself a pat on the back. This is so easy, right? Oh
Mhm.
boy, that was short-lived. That was really short-lived. Because while Claire was open and I could read her energy and her needs really well, Juliet came along 21 months later. And oh my gosh, I could not figure this kiddo out. She was such a magnificent little soul. I could not make her happy. I could not connect to her. Breastfeeding was hard. I was exhausted. I was in a job I hated that I thought I would be in for 30 years, right? I was teaching 7th grade and I was just strung out. Like I was doing all the right things, right?
Yeah.
I had the perfect job. I had the husband, we had the house, we had all the things. And I had 2 kids. Like, oh my gosh, so perfect. I had 2 little girls and I was doing all the things and I was so unhappy. And the harder I tried, the harder it got. And it got to the point where I was so lost and in such a dark place that I was crying every day at work. I was just drained. Things that used to light me up weren't. And I fell apart. And I think I didn't realize at the time, looking at it now, I realized like you can't parent children the same way. And I
Yeah.
was trying to, but I couldn't see that because my well was so empty. Like there was no part of Mariah left. I was stripped bare. And I'll never forget, it was this, everything peaks at once, right? Like everything comes to like, it peaks, but it's really like this way, right? Because you're in this hole,
Yeah.
essentially, like the bottom of the barrel. And it was totally a dark night of the soul for me. I am significantly older, not significantly older, but I'm a little bit older than my siblings. And so at this time period, I was married and had children quite young. And so that put my sister still at home at this point. And so my mom was going away on vacation, and she asked that I stay with my sisters just to be a support, to make sure the house didn't implode. She's like,
Right.
bring the girls, it'll be fine. I'll get you all the food and all the things. Sure, great, mom, I can do that. I thought it would be a little vacation. Well, no. I fell apart. And I don't have a close relationship with my sister, but I will never forget the moment where I just couldn't do it anymore. I was anxious. I was shaking in my body, and I was like near tears. And my sister is really intuitive, and she looked at me, and she's never taken my girls. She had never helped me before, and we're not close. And she's like, I'm going to take the girls, and you're going to go shower. You're going to take a minute. And I will tell you, I sat in the bottom of that shower and I just cried and cried and cried. And that was the lowest moment I had ever had in my life. I couldn't make my kids happy. I needed my sisters to do this. I lost my connection with my husband. I was like repulsed by him. And I felt broken. And so that night, my husband and I sat down. It was dark. I'll never forget it. We're in this living room. It's not our house. I'm just like, I can't breathe. I don't know what I'm doing. I need help. And he's like, okay. Like, okay. And I had to get super vulnerable and say, this isn't working. I had to be really vulnerable with myself and with him. And it was probably the hardest thing I'd ever done in my life. Probably still to this day is one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, was admit defeat and that I needed help, that I needed some outside support to change that. I look back on it now, and I definitely had postpartum depression, undiagnosed. And what led me to that? I wasn't listening. I wasn't feeling my well. I had no support, right? Yes, my parents were around and they take the girls, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't, I was a new mom. I was young. I was working full time. I had a house, like all the things, and no friends that understood that experience, right? I was incredibly lonely. Oh my gosh. And just like thinking about that Mariah 6 years ago, it was actually probably 5 years ago, because Juliet was probably like 2 months old at this point. I think that it gets a little wonky, but like that Mariah I was 5 years ago, the best thing I could have ever done was ask for support, because now I'm like on the other side and I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. So every time I hit that low, I'm like, well, the other side's going to be amazing. This is terrible in this moment, but I'm going to do the work. We're going to, white knuckle it all we can through these hard, difficult moments, because parenting shifts. Like that parent I was 5 years ago, I am a different parent today because my children have changed. And so there's this need to always be compassionate with myself. Like, yeah, I messed up, but I can apologize. We had this moment the other day, and we just got back from a trip from Disneyland. And I will tell you, it was fantastic. Like the girls were fantastic. And I have pretty typical children, right? They're extremely sensitive, but they're healthy. They're very typical. And there was this moment where my daughter's like crying, and like she's almost crying, and she's just not acting the way I wanted her to act. We're at freaking Disneyland and she's giving me a hard time, right? And I'm like, I literally said to her, I said, I just don't expect an 8-year-old to cry when they're at Disneyland like this. Like, I'm just disappointed. And I said it, and I was like, oof, like it hurt. And it immediately like shut her down. The tears were gone. And later that day, we were walking down the road, holding hands, walking, so much walking in Disney, my gosh.
Yeah.
And I said, I had this, and my mom was there. So it was an incredibly vulnerable moment, because grandma was there, and I was holding Claire's hand, and I had this feeling inside me that I needed to apologize. I just needed to own it. That's not the kind of mom I want to be. I don't want to squash her. Obviously, there was this moment of tension. She wasn't getting what she needed. I wasn't being clear, right? And I said, hey, Claire, you remember earlier when I said I don't expect an 8-year-old to cry? She's like, yeah, like, I'm really sorry for that. That didn't feel good in my body. I'm sure it didn't feel good to receive that. I'm so sorry. I'll try and do better next time. I said, I hope you'll forgive me. And she kind of looked at me, and my mom is standing behind me, kind of walking a little off behind me. And she kind of looks at me, like gives me a little side eye. And she's like, I'll forgive you this time, with a big smile on her face, and that was it. We moved on.
Yeah.
And that gave her this moment of like, hey, mom's human. And that reminded me, like, hey, she's got a little sense of humor. She's human. She's growing. She sees me. I see her. It was a perfect, imperfect moment.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But had I
Absolutely.
not been compassionate with myself and like looked at that forgiveness and been vulnerable, man, that could have been a moment of like lowercase t trauma for Claire, where those little moments where we don't listen and we shut things down and we react instead of respond, like that adds up over time.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. You shared so many powerful things. I just want to start with what this story you just shared, because I think part of the issue is that sometimes we're not honest with ourselves about what we feel. And so I've been at Disney, I've been in your situation. Sometimes you're frustrated because you're thinking, I paid all this money, I'm tired, because it's not always a vacation for the parents. Yeah. And so there's like walking, there's paying, there's doing coordinating, but you want it to be magical. And sometimes the kids pick up where we're at. I think the whole story was really beautiful. Number one, you admitting and acknowledging that you were frustrated and that you're like, you know what? I'm really frustrated. This was my expectation. And when we have expectations, people don't often meet them. And I think that causes us suffering. And the
Mhm.
fact that you were able to reflect and go back and be able to reconnect with your kids, because there's so many moments where we connect and then disconnect and connect and disconnect and connect and disconnect. And when we don't connect back, I think that's what causes the greater distance and the trauma and so on. And so it's so beautiful that you are able to say, look, I'm not always going to get it right, but I'm trying my best. And the relationship is more important than being right. So I think that is fantastic. What was your mom's reaction? I just have to ask that question. What was
You
your
know,
mother's reaction?
it's not a peep out of her. I think I have
Interesting.
no idea. And
Yeah.
I wish I knew, but I didn't even dare look at my mom. My
Yeah.
mom was a fantastic mom. Um, but we choose totally believe that we choose our parents because they have the greatest lessons to teach us. So no
Right.
matter how magical of a parent I am or my mom is, like, we're always going to come to childhood with some stuff, with some baggage, right? And so I parent very differently than my mom does. And so I don't know if my mom has ever apologized in that way to me, and there's nothing wrong with that. She just has a very different relationship with me than I do with my girls, and that's totally fine, and that's magical in itself, because she gets to see me parent the girls, but I also get to see her be a grandmother and like have this different relationship. And it's not a do-over, but it's this magical opportunity to be softer, to be a little gentler. And I see her doing that. And it's really cool. It's really magical to see. And she honors me as a mom, which is really nice. And she has never questions me or my parenting. And so that feels really good. But I think what I think is really cool is her not saying anything is her saying a lot
Yeah. Yeah.
in a really beautiful way. And I can
Mhm.
fully respect that.
Yeah. And she might have had, and I don't really know this, different feelings about it, right? So my parents grew up in that old school mentality when you didn't question your parents. And, you know, I love my parents. My parents are great parents. They're doing the best they can. I'm doing the best I can with my daughter. And recently had a conversation where I said, you know what? Majority of the time, I don't know what I'm doing. Kids aren't born with a manual. So we're just
Yeah.
winging it out here. And
Yeah.
so we are all doing the best we can. Really, it's true. And that forgiveness is so important. Going back to my parents' situation, they grew up in that kind of household where you were like, the parents always right, that you don't question. And I know my parents have had problems or issues with their parents and not being
Yeah.
able to say. And so that seeing the difference in the generations between their parents and us growing up and being able to have these conversations, I think it's very healing. I think it's
It's
very, very healing. Yeah.
so healing, and just have awareness, that around this. And I think any healing we do, in this generation, it affects both ends of the spectrum, the children to come and the parents who came before us. I think it totally heals the lineage in this really beautiful way. It's soft, it's compassionate, it's like every little thing we do has massive impact if we allow it to.
And I totally agree with what you're saying. I do believe that any healing that we do not only impacts our past, but our future and our present as
Yeah.
well. I do want to go back to what you had shared before in terms of the struggles you were having in parenting your youngest child. Because so often as parents, one of the reasons why you might have patted yourself on the back is because you felt it was easy and you were doing it well. And then when you weren't doing it well, or you perceived you weren't doing it well or didn't know what was happening, we tend to really judge ourselves. We get so hard on ourselves because we think we have to be perfect and we think we have to be the perfect mother and we have to be always so loving and all of these things. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that we have kind of this programming to compare ourselves, to have to
Oh,
need to be perfect?
I know. And that comparison harm is so real, especially when we see other moms who are killing it, doing it so good and it looks so
Yeah.
easy.
And who's
Their
killing
kids,
it? I just want to know, like, who's killing it? Because maybe I need to take some notes.
the mom whose kid's hair is always brushed and looking good, like that. I need that mom's magic, please. Like, oh my
That's
gosh.
fantastic. Yeah.
And
Mhm.
it's like this, we are so hard on ourselves. And it's so funny, the story that's coming up to tell you to relate to this is my oldest daughter, bless her soul, she cut my youngest daughter's hair. And
Oh
so we're like,
no.
she cut like this first, like this chunk right the top of her forehead, and she cut it like to the scalp. So this was earlier in the summer. So we're talking we've got a couple months of growth of like this crazy like bang situation going on.
Hmm.
And we'll get it fixed now that it's like an appropriate length. She's got to get bangs and we'll fix it, whatever. But like, I look at it every time and I'm just like, oh man, like it feels like failure. You know what I mean? This is like simple thing, like why? Especially like it hurts, right?
Mhm.
I also I've started to look at it and be like, this is her season. This is the season of Juliet where she's got the messy hair. I grew up in a house that like your hair had to be brushed. It had to be out of your face. Like, and the hair is a big thing for me because my middle
Mhm.
sister, she never took care of her hair. And I always told her, I said, if you don't take care of that hair, I'm going to cut it one day. I'm going to cut it one day. Well, sure enough, one day I cut her hair. She would never go to the hairdressers. And so we would trim her hair at home.
Mhm.
One day I just cut it all off on her. And so we bring these stories from childhood to our parenting. And so for me to be a perfect parent includes like the nice hair. Like this
Yeah.
is really, and it never happens. And I always like send my kids to school a little defeated. Like, and that's judgy. I'm judging myself. Like, you can't even get your kid's hair done in the morning. Like,
Yeah, you know what? It's so funny. So thank you for sharing this story because it really triggered some stories for me. I was the kid with the messy hair and the sock down, and I was always like, like running around and getting dirty and didn't care. And my mother would like that was an important thing for her. Right.
yeah.
And so the hair seemed to be an issue. And then when I had my daughter's hair would tangle really quickly. And so there would be times when I would be like, I don't know how to, because my hair's curly. So I eventually learned to deal with curly hair, but not straight, thin hair. And so it would
Yeah.
knot in these bunches and I would curl and comb it and she would be crying because it hurt so much. And I'm like, I'm trying different things. And I felt like a terrible parent if she went to school with a big knot. And it's so funny, these are small moments. These are small moments that have such an impact. And to reflect back, and one of the things that I actually did do was like, okay, I have to stop having this relationship with this kid's hair in the same manner. So I researched, I started looking at the detanglers, the detanglers work. Now we layer it in different layers and found it doesn't tangle. We'd comb it at
Yeah.
night. I wanted to change my relationship with what was happening, because what I was doing is I was getting really, really frustrated with not being able to get the knots out. And sometimes I would pull her hair, and that's what she would remember. That's how our
Yeah.
interactions were. And so instead of being those nice moments of combing nice hair and making it nice, it was like, okay, let's get to this.
Oh, yeah. And then she feels shame and blame because she doesn't have perfect hair that's easy to brush. Like,
Yeah.
and so she has this, you know, relationship with her hair that's tension filled, you know? I mean, I don't know. She could possibly,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's
No, she's
what
okay.
I'm, yeah, she's like, they're totally fine, but like, oh, like that just doesn't feel good, you know? Like it's just hair, like it's part of her, it makes her beautiful, and no matter what it looks like. Like
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
failing as a parent because my kid didn't wash her hair. Like it is what, like we're working on it. We're all human. We're practicing. We're learning. You know, and it's I think having compassion too, because like as I pay attention and I have compassion for myself as a parent, and I stop judging myself, I get to know my kids better, and then I can respond better. Okay, Juliet, no, I know if I say, Juliet, you have to take a bath, she doesn't associate washing her hair with a bath. I have to say, Juliet, we're going to take a bath and wash your hair tonight. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I have to be really clear. I know that because she's so literal. If I don't spell it out,
Mm-hmm.
she's going to get furious with me. And then I'm going to get frustrated. And then, we blow up
Yeah.
over something ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But as I have compassion for myself and I reflect and I get to know my daughter more, and I'm willing to see her, truly see her as the little person she is, then it makes parenting easier because I know how to handle her. I can put the right kind of gloves on to handle my kiddo. And then Claire, she needs a different set of gloves. She needs a different set of eyes and a different language, to take care of her and her anxiety. So with one I've got like anxiety and the other I've got quick to anger, you
Yeah.
know, both
Yeah.
both are fine, but both require different things.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And the compassion is so important, right? Because I think what you said was spot on. I realized that I would get frustrated with my children, especially around cleaning and all of those smaller things, when I had nothing left to give. Like when I was
Mhm,
already spent infant full and I thought, oh my God, now I'm gonna have to clean, but they're not doing their chores, making myself a victim. I realized that I would just snap at them. And I'm like, okay, so now when I realize I'm getting kind of snippy, I'm like, you know what? No, this is not who I want to be. I need to take time out to regroup.
mhm,
And I even had to have a conversation with myself and say, you know what? The chores. Do you really want to make this something that everybody dreads doing, including you? Or do you want to actually just enjoy yourself? Even if they don't want to do it, if they need to be done this week, then I will do them and I'll do it with joy because that's what I choose. And if not, I just wait and say, okay, your chores. And I keep reminding them. But I had found since I released the tension and the need for it to be perfect and the need for it to happen all the time, I find that they're more likely, especially my daughter, to do it spontaneously.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when you do ask and it comes from a place of love and not that tension, they're much more likely to respond with love instead of tension. And like I've begun, going back to that part where you said, like, when I'm empty and I'm spent, everything's bigger and harder. I've begun pointing out to my girls how I'm different from them, how my energy and me as a person, I need different things than they need.
Mhm.
Sometimes I am spent and I literally just need a day on the couch. Like it's
Yeah.
just who I am. And I've come to accept that. Like every once in a while, more often than I'd care for, I just need a day of nothing. And my girls aren't like that at all. And it frustrates them to no end until I explained it to them. And I said, hey, like, mom, just this is how I am. Like if I'm going to function and have fun, I just need a day of nothing. And so, a couple of weeks ago, I explained that to them, and I sat in bed all day. I'm not gonna lie, I sat in bed all
Mhm.
day And it was magical. You know why? Because I told them, I was honest with them. I'm like, I'm not being lazy. I just need a recharge day. I'm spent. We had such a busy week. We've got big travel coming up and I'm holding space. I'm packing. I just needed it. And they came in, they'd bring little things to me. Hey, mom, will you play a game at Racco with me? I'll bring the game to the, absolutely. Let's do it. Mom, will you read a chapter of my book to me? Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. And so they'd come in these little pieces, acknowledging that mom's not going to get out of bed or do any wild, crazy things today, but she's still here. This is what she needs. How can I support? Not so like they don't know they're supporting me, but they're like, okay, I see mom needs this, but I also need something. How can we kind of merge the two? And they're
Yeah.
still little, so they're not articulating that, but it was really beautiful. And I was like, I can be the mom they need and be the human I need too.
Yeah.
And it's this beautiful melding. But had I had guilt or shame and no compassion around what I needed, they would have thrown a fit. Get out of bed. We gotta do something. We never do anything. Blah, 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 blah. No, we did a lot this week. Let's look at all the things we did that exhausted mom, and she just needs a little recharge today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see you, mom. All right, cool. So compassion
Thank
goes so far in parenting.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing this because I think this is really important. Number one is you determine what you needed in the moment. And what you needed
Yeah.
in the moment was to spend time by yourself doing whatever you felt was appropriate. And so many of us judge ourselves for spending time on the bed, on the couch, just not doing anything. There's so many expectations, but rest is just as important as action. It's just as
Oh,
important. And we don't acknowledge that enough. Like, look at the culture we have,
mhm.
burnout, the grind, the doing things like push through, push through. Push through is the worst thing you could do because that's what leads to burnout. And so I want to applaud you for actually saying, I need this and this is okay. And that's what you're demonstrating to your girls. It's okay for me to put my own oxygen mask on first. I'm still going
Mm,
to be here for you, but I don't have to not choose myself to do that.
yeah.
And I
Oh my
think
God.
that is super, super powerful.
You
Yeah.
articulated that so well. And being on the other side as someone who has chosen to put my oxygen mask on first and experience the positive effects of that. Like, I know that makes me a better person. I know it makes me more of myself and a better wife and a better mom and better, like, to show up with my clients, right? Like, it's worth it. It is so worth it to just take that moment and assess, what do I need? Even if it seems selfish, it never is, right?
No.
Or not what's culturally appropriate. Like, it's not appropriate to spend a Saturday in bed. No,
Who determined that? Who? Who
yeah,
decided that
cool.
wasn't? Who? Name names.
Obviously they were not, they were not me, because like that is so healing to me and fills my cup that I can do, all the things the following week. And it's so simple. And like, I can have those moments with my daughter where I can apologize and I can say, hey, that wasn't cool, because I can see and I can reflect, because I'm full, my cup is full.
Yeah.
And they're just not as big. And the triggers are much smaller. And I can see the triggers for what they are as triggers, and I can respond to them and then go back to them at a later date and be like, that why is that, turning me inside out and backwards, because there's information there to be had. What can I learn more about myself so that I can adjust, so I can have compassion, so that I can, again, get to know myself better, so that I can take care of myself and myself better.
Yeah. Absolutely. Completely agreed. I did want to go back to something you had said around your kids. If you hadn't been compassionate to yourselves, they would have had a different reaction. I do believe that kids are a mirror of us and everything that is happening. And so I do agree that if you are not feeling overly compassionate, for some reason, like they will pick it up and they will reflect back to you what you're really feeling. And I think that's why sometimes we as parents may have a challenging relationship with our kids, especially if they mirror back to us something we don't want to see or admit. how do you manage those moments, like where but they're now compared to obviously what you used to when your kids reflect something and you're like, ah, man, come on.
Ugh,
I thought
no,
I dealt with that. Yeah.
this one hits like close to home because I'm working on something right now that
Oh,
the
okay.
girls mirror back to me.
Yeah.
And I just recently realized that they mirror back to me. And I had this moment of like, oh my God, they do that because I do it. So the girls do this thing where if they meet any resistance, where if I pause at all to give them an answer, or whatever, they go, forget it. I don't need help. I don't forget it. They get really frustrated, like this big explosive
Yeah.
reaction. And I literally go, I just need a moment to figure this out. Like I'm on your team. Like, let's make it happen. Right. But they don't see it that way, right? And then there was this moment where I was in this situation with the girls where I had asked them to do something and they didn't respond in the way I had hoped. And I said, forget it, I'll just do it myself. And I literally was like, oh, oh,
Yeah.
oh my, it like took my breath away.
Yeah.
Uh, and I was shocked. And so I'm still working on it, right? Because
Yeah.
this is something I just realized. And so, it's really cool because I go, oh, yes, I get to figure this out and fix it or
Yeah.
change it or,
Yeah.
shift my reaction so that this doesn't have to be this way. But it's also
Mhm.
like oh, this is my fault.
Yeah.
Not that it's my fault, but it's also like, okay, great. This is really exciting because we can shift this reaction that we all have. This is like a household thing that we're working on here, guys. Like, okay. So, now it's going to be like paying attention to my response is going to, still haven't had the conversation with my husband because I don't know if he does it yet. So it's going to require me to be like, hey, Kev, I do this, or you know what I mean? So I'm in the gathering
Mhm.
phase of like, okay, what information do I need to have around the situation? Because it's wildly frustrating when the girls don't give me a moment to breathe, to give them a solution or to help them or to
Yeah.
support them. And end up ripping things up or throwing things, they've got
Mhm.
so much emotion and they don't know where to put it that it just like explodes, right?
Yeah.
So I'm in the gathering phase where I'm going to gather the information and I'm going to look at it and then I'm going to change my behavior. I'm going to change my response, but that might take a little bit of digging. Why do I do this? Where does this stem from? Do I need more support? Like, I don't have the answer. I don't have the answers. I don't have a guidebook. I got nothing.
Yeah, and that's exactly how we feel as well. Like, and that was the conversation I had recently with my daughter, right? Like, kids aren't born with a guide. We don't know what we're doing. We're winging it over here. We're like, okay, and some days we feel we got it, and other days we're like, oh man, I did not go well. My husband and I would look at each other, go, oh man, like how? Because sometimes kids come with challenges that you might not have experienced, right? Or you
Yeah.
may have no, and you're like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this, like, right? And so, and parenting in today's world seems really different than before, right? There seemed to be more community. There seemed to be more, regardless of how we felt about that community and, like the aunties and uncles and all of those things.
Yeah.
It just feels like we're much more isolated and alone nowadays in today's society. We don't have that kind of connection anymore of like, like the grandparents and aunts and uncles and coming that huge like circle of love of people
Yeah.
coming together where you could just like, okay, I need a moment. Here you go.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
so it just feels a lot more difficult, I would say.
And it takes more energy to get those alone moments because we don't have that community. So it's harder. There's like another layer of muck we gotta wade through because it requires a babysitter or X, Y, and Z and a phone call and a half-hour drive or and, some people might even be a plane ride. So I applaud moms and dads who take that challenge because it is a challenge to get what you need. Like, and it requires bravery and vulnerability to be like, I need help or I need something that I don't have. And to really look at yourself and be like, what do I need? This gathering phase where I'm looking at all the things. It's uncomfortable. Like this shifting and parenting with compassion, it's uncomfortable because you have to look at what's not working and what you're doing that's, detrimental to your relationships. And man, it hurts to not be right all the time. It
Yeah.
hurts to, not be perfect, until you acknowledge, until you reach a stage where you're like, okay with that, and you lean into that, and you love that, and you revel in that, and you're like, but that takes a while to get there through that. I'm essentially 6 years into this journey of transformation, because that's what it is. As I transform and I look at myself, like I am a new person 100 million times over compared to that little girl who gave birth 8 years ago. There is nothing other than the fact that I was practically a little girl compared to the woman I am today. And it takes so much love, compassion, and bravery to make those shifts and that transition. But I can tell you, it is so worth it. It is so worth it to seek help and support. And I think, yeah, we don't have a parenting guide, and our kids don't have a book that they're like, hey, this is all the secret sauce you're going to need for your kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there are women out there who are in their wise woman stage, and they have great advice, and they've been there and they've done that, and they're willing to be guides, and to tap into that wisdom, to find those nuggets. Recently I heard someone say it's like following the breadcrumbs, right? Like you follow these resources and you take what feels really good and you leave the rest. You may love some of the stuff that I say, and you may hear me say something, you're like, oh, she's a quack. That's fine. Take what feels really good and run with it. If I say a word that you're like, oh, I need more information about that, research it, follow the rabbit hole, because you're going to find a wise woman at the end of that you're going to connect with. I may not be your person and you may not be that person, but like there's a person for you who can be your guide if you're willing to listen. And I swear, and that person can change over time. I've had like probably two really transformational women in my, like, in the last 6 years that, like, whoa, you've done it, you've been there, I'm gonna listen. And I've actually outgrown both of them, and here I am, and I'm kind of standing on my own, and I'm like, oh, this is pretty amazing, right? And there's still more to learn, and I know that, and I'm, hungry for the next lesson, because I know how magnificent life is when you like do the work and you're willing to look and be compassionate. And it's so like I see these posts online of these women who are just like stuck. And I'm reading a book right now, and they call it like, you're stuck with a frog, you're frog farming. You've got this man who, once was Prince Charming and now he's a frog. And like, if you're willing to look at yourself and to see what's changed and what's shifted, man, little tweaks can make such a big difference. But the spark of that is compassion and love. Like, you've got to have a little spark to, start you down that rabbit hole to find the wise woman to support you so that you can become that wise woman. Sorry for the tangent.
Oh no, this is great. One of the things I was thinking about is the fact that you've outgrown these women is a sign that they're good teachers.
Yeah.
Because a good teacher builds other teachers, right? Like builds other masters. So I think that's really pivotal. I think the other thing that you said that really struck me, that I think it's really important to point out, is how probably this work about becoming vulnerable, about really facing all those uncomfortable emotions, doesn't feel good. And so often we've been taught to run away from those bad feelings, but our success is really through those emotions. And how, as difficult as they are in the beginning, I love the fact that you now enjoy them like a little bit. Just the fact that you're like, okay, that was uncomfortable, that my kids showed me that it's me, like Taylor Swift, it's me, I'm the problem, it's me. But at the same time, you're like, okay, I get to deal with this now. It doesn't have to be our forever. And I think there is a shift. So that's great hope for people to understand that it's not always going to feel that same level of discomfort. In the beginning, it sucks. But then as you go through, you do get to the point where you're like, ah, okay, I get to deal with this now. And now we
Yeah.
get to have a different outcome. So I think that what you said was really, really powerful and important, because often we're taught move away from the negative feelings, move away from the uncomfortable, move away instead of leaning in, right?
Yeah. And like
Leaning
protect,
in,
protect. Yeah.
protect. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have a story that came to mind. Would you mind if
Yeah.
I shared it
Yeah, of
about this?
course. Please do.
And I want people to really know that these moments can be tiny moments, but they tell us so much. I recently had one of these moments where I was laying on the couch at my mom's. She likes to cook Sunday dinner, which is magnificent because I don't enjoy cooking. So we're laying on the couch, and Claire came up to me. This was several months ago, and she's just like snuggling with me on the couch at my mom's. And I'll tell you, oh my gosh, did it make my skin crawl?
Okay.
You know, like, oh, and I was like, I just wanted to shove her off. I just wanted to yell at her and be like, get off me. Like, you're 8 years old, you 7 years old. You don't need to snuggle with me on the couch, right? And I took a big breath in and I was like, you don't need to shove your daughter off the couch. It's okay if you're uncomfortable in this moment. Like, this is information. Like, tuck it away. This is bigger than you. And I knew this was a moment I needed support with. And I have a woman I see every month who, like a therapist, and I like talk through this stuff with her. So
Yeah.
I pinned this moment and I said to her, I want to be able to snuggle with my daughter and not want to push her to the other side of the
Yeah.
room. This made me so uncomfortable, like, right? And I could have pushed her off me. I could have done all these things to protect myself and make myself more comfortable, right? Because she triggered me and I could have lashed out, but I like, you know, get a little twitchy and you, okay, this is information. All this is information. This is uncomfortable in this moment. And this is a fairly simple trigger to talk you through, right? And so I pinned it and I go to Deborah. Her name is Deborah, and Deborah
Yeah.
breaks me down and she holds space and I cry and go through all the things and she asks me all the hard questions and I really have to look at myself, right? And I will tell you, I've been seeing Deborah for every month for 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
every month. And my life is fantastic. I brag that my life is really magnificent and I still see her every month.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want life to be better. It can be better, right?
Yeah.
And I say this to brag from a place of like reverence, like you deserve more. You are deserve to be bigger than your triggers. And so I sat with the uncomfortableness. She held the space for me. I really looked at why I was uncomfortable with this. And my oldest daughter snuggling with me in public and all the things, right? And I looked at it and I will tell you, I love when she snuggles with me now. I got over that. I acknowledged it. And I just spent a week in Disney with both of my girls glued to me, hand holding, lots of hugs. And I was totally okay with it. And I reveled in it. And I said, this is what my girls need. They're sensitive, they're touchy feely, they're nothing like I was when I was a child. And it no longer triggers me. Had I not looked at that and done the work and gone to my person, right? I really believe everybody needs a person, a therapist, whether it's traditional or non-traditional, to like talk these things out to whatever the modality is, right? And it was so magical because I literally looked and I was like, I have the capacity to hold both my daughter's hands all day for 7 days. And like, I don't feel overwhelmed. I don't feel itchy and gross in my own skin. This feels really good because it wasn't about my girls. It was about me,
For
you
sure.
know?
Yeah. And
And
this
so,
story, yeah, it's so powerful. It's just
yeah,
so powerful because it comes from a place of non-judgment, which is the foundation of is compassion, right? So rather than you could have, shoved your kid to make yourself more comfortable, you didn't. So, but you could have also been judging yourself even while your child was there. Had you not chosen to just put a pin in it to observe later, I think
yeah,
it would have been actually being with her in that moment harder But the fact that you chose, okay, I'm going to put in this, I'm going to look at it from the place of non-judgment and able to lean into those this uncomfortable conversations, because we all as human beings have varying different levels of discomfort about different things. Sometimes, like my parents are going through a caregiving situation where my mom is caregiving for my dad. Sometimes that's really hard. Sometimes it's hard for her to not to deal with those negative feelings of having to care for someone and feel overwhelmed and feel burnt out, right? You feel guilty because you're your partner, but at the same time you're like, oh, I'm stuck with
Yeah.
caregiving. And so caregiving can be really challenging, and to be in those moments and be able to look at those experiences without judgment and to say, okay, what's the gift in this moment? I may not be able to see it now. I'm like you said, I'm going to go to my person and help me dig for gold, or just look at that gift, and then be able to then get to the other side, so that now you are holding hands and really enjoying it, not just forcing yourself because of the girls, or not
Yeah.
judging yourself because, but actually truly reveling in being able to hold hands with your beautiful children. So I think that takes so much courage. What
Oh,
role has courage played in your life?
Lord, courage. Huge. I feel like there's this conversation brewing with my husband that I need to look at something. I realize something, right? I'm always learning. That's
Yeah.
part of who I am, deepening my relationships. And I'm reading this book, this magnificent book. I kind of opened this book being like, I'm not going to get anything out of it, but it was recommended and I'm going to read it and it'll be great to help my clients and have some more language. And dude, if you ever have those thoughts, like, darn it, if there's not something massive for you to learn in that book or that experience, right? And so there's something I realized, and I need to approach him with this conversation that I need to have. And I literally, not today. I need
Yeah.
to build up a little courage. I need to like look back on my belief bank, right? I need to look back on all those times that I was vulnerable and I was honest and the outcome was magnificent. I need to just remember those things. And we may not always have that belief bank to lean on, but there's always a moment. I truly believe if we look hard enough, we can find places of positive reinforcement that just reminds us, even if they were so small, that this situation or this person, will have a positive outcome, that I can believe wholly that this situation will be resolved, that I will be seen, that I will be supported, that's one of the first things I always recommend my clients do is like, write your belief bank. Where have things been so desperate and dark and they turned out okay? Hey, you're still alive. So I think they turned out okay, right? You're still here. So there's at least something. And so right now I'm going to spend the next day and a half really leaning on my belief bank that he will see me and he will respond from a place of love. I'm not worried about him. I know he's going to respond really beautifully, but it's vulnerable for me because I need to admit that I've done something that's not that I can improve on, that it hasn't been from a place of love. Not that I've done it purposefully, but it's like
Mhm.
this habit that society allows us to do and see as fine as like emasculating men in this way. And I realized this, and I realized that part of something we're working on together for him is my fault. And I play a big part in that. And so owning that's scary as heck. So I'm going to spend the next day building up my courage, building from that belief bank so that I can have this inner strength to kind of lay myself bare and say, I messed up. Let's like help me, fix this so that we can have even a more magical, deeper, loving relationship. So I've been at this for 6 years and I'm still like, ooh, there's stuff to fix, 11 years in this marriage and we were wildly in love and we're in a magnificent place. And I'm still like, ooh, I need a little courage to be vulnerable. And that's okay. Like, if
Yeah.
it's ever easy, I'm doing something wrong, I think.
Mhm.
Not that it needs to be hard, But if you're not needing to be a little courageous and a little brave, like, are you doing the right thing? Like, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little nervous for our conversation today because I knew you were gonna ask great questions. I knew I was gonna have to be vulnerable. And so I was like, you're just gonna take a deep breath. You know, she comes from a place of love and that this is gonna help so many other parents. Like, let's do it. Like, let's do it. And so it's just like finding that strength, building it up, and knowing that the other side is magical if you're willing.
Yeah. Thank you. I just want to point out two really important things that I feel you've said from my perspective or really resonated with me. Number one is the power of pause. So
Yeah.
often we rush to have conversations or to address issues or to just react. Whereas pausing and really, like you said, tapping into your belief bank or putting a pin in it in the moment really does enable us to really reflect and then respond. The second thing that I thought was really, really powerful and important is focusing our energy and attention on the outcome that we want rather than what we are afraid of. And so often we focus on the things we're afraid of, which like contributes to us feeling even more vulnerable. When really we can use that same energy and attention and place it on the outcome that we want to experience. And this kind of comes from, I know that you are a very spiritual person, and I'm a long-term student of Neville Goddard, and he talks about, how your beliefs impact your reality, and everything is perception, really. And, you can have the outcome you desire if you put your energy and attention on that instead of focusing like we always do in society of all the things we're afraid of, all the things that are negative, on all the things we want to fight. And so what I got out of your belief bank really was, okay, so can I then focus on the outcome that I desire, believe that it will happen, put my energy on that, and then be open to whatever feelings come up, because it's the resistance that makes us suffer, right? The resistance to feel the feelings we have. And so thus enabling us to move forward. So I think you made some really important points about courage. Are there any areas in your life where you have found that letting go and releasing the resistance has really led to really being able to live a more fulfilling life? Sort of the letting go allowed you to receive. Um,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I guess I'm just going to be really vulnerable today. Like, thank you. Yeah. I, so when we hold on so tightly to things that aren't, especially that aren't working, right? We desperately want them to work. Oh gosh, like if I just do this one thing a little differently and I push a little harder, it will work. And that's not the case. So I'm in a massive place in my life right now in a transition of my career. And this is so magnificent. But let me tell you, 2, 3 months ago, I did not think it was magnificent at all, right? I worked for a company, it was magnificent. I had amazing coworkers, and I grew so much. Like this job pushed my edges so far and like really transformed me. Quite magical. It took like my teaching skills and applied them to business, to like really powerful women. Like it was amazing. It was like my dream job. And I lost it in April. And there was so much fear around not having an income, of not being worthy of my family because I wasn't producing income, right? That's not true. I have a lot of worth in my family besides just the money I bring in, right? And so I created some programs out of fear, out of pure desperation. At the time, I didn't realize that. And to be quite honest, I don't enjoy them. They were created out of fear, out of desperation, out of I'm not worthy to just be in my family. My husband makes enough money that we can live comfortably. I don't need to I didn't need to stress. Yeah, maybe things are a little tight. We just need to look at a little, like, sure, of course, but not this desperate, I need to go make money right this second, right? And it hasn't been easy. It's been an uphill battle. June, July, August, September, October. It's been 5 months and it's been not enjoyable. It's been incredibly draining and it's not working. Yes, my clients are getting something out of it and they're enjoying, but it's not working for me. And I've been holding on to this fact that I need to have income in order to be valuable in my family. And just in the last like 3 weeks, I've opened up to the idea that I can be valuable in my family and to my husband without an income, and to take a moment to step back and say, this isn't working. It's stressing me out. It's putting tension in my relationship and my relationship with my girls, that it's draining me. So I'm quicker to that trigger, right?
Yeah.
Just like I was at Disney, what I shared with you guys, that I told my daughter it's not appropriate for an 8-year-old to cry. Hell, if it's not appropriate for an 8-year-old to cry, do you know how much I cry? Like, oh my, talk about being a hypocrite in that moment. Shoot, this tears, a lot of them, right?
Yeah.
And so
crier here.
Yeah, totally a crier. And so I am in this moment. This is the last month. I'm closing it down. It's like closing of ceremony is gonna be beautiful. And I am truly leaning into just receiving from my husband. That is my goal. Like, can I show up for myself? Can I show up for him? Can I show up for my girls in this really beautiful feminine way? I want to lead my family. I want to be the feminine leader in my family. What does that look like? What does that feel like? Who am I? What are all the ways in which I'm valuable? This is really scary. Not something that I've ever leaned into. I always thought I needed to produce income to be valuable in my family. Where that comes from, I'm not sure. I don't need to know, but I do know that leaning in to just fully receiving from my husband and allowing him to support our family without stress, trusting and opening up to that and receiving him loving me in that way. Whoa, I'm sweating just thinking about it. Like, that's big, right? Huge. And not every family has this ability, right? I get that, but this is my journey. This is the reality I've created. And so I'm nervous, I'm excited, and I'm really pumped about what February and April are going to look like, because I cannot imagine our life in 1 year from now. Because a year ago, man, I didn't realize how stressed I was. I didn't see all the things that, this job was perfect, but it was a massive stress. I didn't sleep well. I had migraines, right? So knowing that as I lean into opening this receiving container, what does this look like to receive in this way? Like, what invitations are going to come my way? What beautiful work is going to come out of this? Because I've taken a breath. I've looked at who I really am and who I really want to serve and how do I want to serve in this life. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. If I can, I'm trying to remember that I don't just have to get through this rest period. I have to actually enjoy it for it to work.
Yes.
So I'm trying not like parameters around it. Like, you're only allowed to rest for a month, or you're only allowed to rest for 3 months. Like, no, that defeats the purpose, Mariah. You need to open up and rest and receive all the bounty, and then the invitation and the opening will then come in spades.
Wow. Congrats. Congrats. Because what you're stepping into is the unknown, right? And so often we are so afraid to trust. Like, we didn't grow up in situations where we may not always have trusted maybe our parents or the people in our lives, or we were taught that we always had to have that security. And so to go into the unknown, it requires courage. I've been in your shoes. I left a workplace that I was unhappy in. It was very clearly guided to do something else, like clearly guided, and everything kind of, move forward in order for me to be in that spot. And then bupkis, like nothing, crickets. And I had to go through this journey of, number one, like you said, am I still worthy and lovable even if I don't achieve anything in the world? Like even if I don't, because at the time I had lofty dreams. I was going to change child welfare. I was going to bring compassion to the world. Ah, look at all these things I do. And then I had to take a hard look at myself and say, can I still love myself? Even if I don't accomplish anything, even if I don't fix the world or help anyone or do anything, can I still look at myself with admiration
Mhm.
and with appreciation? The second thing I had to learn was everything has its time, right? Like everything kind of has its season. And how can I shift this moments? Because I was like you, I started working, I was 13 and I always had money and I was always working. And here I was like not having any income, not having any money. I had multiple degrees, I had all these things, and I was being guided to do this work. And I'm like, I don't know how this is going to turn out. I have no clue. And for me, knowing was important, like control. Like I need to control all these things. I need to know always working. Like, what's my next step? What's like 5 steps here? And to surrender in that capacity, to just go, okay. It has been for me also. It has been definitely, I don't want to call it challenging, but it's been dynamic. I like to use the word dynamic because it feels so unnatural to us, even though it's the most natural thing. There's been so many times in my life where the universe, God, source has given me so many amazing things. But then I forget. I go back into my fear mode and go, well, I need to know where the next thing is going to be. And it's like, what the heck? So yeah, so I can totally understand that perspective of we need almost to prove our value,
Mhm.
that there's a reason why we're alive, that we have to kind of earn our worth.
Mhm.
It can feel so challenging, and that's probably been the best gift I've given myself, which is like, oh, okay, I don't need to prove my worth to anyone,
No, no.
including myself. So that has helped me a lot in terms of being able to let go. And I'm right at the precipice of getting where I really want to know which is savoring
Yeah.
each and every single little moment. Savoring. What has been your relationship with that savoring?
You know, so I'm going to share something that's probably going to make listeners a little uncomfortable.
That's
And
okay. I'm used to
in
uncomfortable.
a really wonderful way. So recently I went to an event. It was called Desire on Fire. And it's all about living your life of pleasure, like truly savoring, like being turned on about life, you
Yeah.
know? And this event was only like 2 weeks ago. And I've been really in this place of tension because my life is really wonderful in unbelievable ways, except this one little thing. Work isn't quite right? And I have this like I can't. I've had this tension around like, well, I really can't complain because the rest of my life is so wonderful. That this one little thing that's not working, I have no right to want more,
Oh,
right?
okay.
That's
Yeah.
that's kind of like the background, right? So I go
Mm-hmm.
to this Desire on Fire event, and these two women who have been practicing savoring and leaning into this pleasure for many years, right? One of the sessions, she got up and the session was all about bragging, because as women we don't brag, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're taught to like get really small, like it's not polite to share your wins, like all the junk that comes up with that, right? She got up on stage and she bragged. And when you brag from a place of reverence for yourself and a place of love and like true self-love, like when you brag from that place, it's a game changer. And I will tell you, she got up there on the stage and she started bragging. right? And she's bragging about a lot of things that I could also brag about, right?
Mhm.
And she's gone on about like, I don't know, a few minutes. And I'm like, okay, it would be polite for her to do one more brag. Like, this is me judging her,
Yeah.
right? And I'm like, I notice, I'm like, what is that? Like, she can get up there as long as she wants to brag. Like, that's the point of
Mhm.
this. Like, calm down. Like, I'm like swatting that bitch off my shoulder. Like, no, not, it's
You're like,
not the
shut
sister.
up.
Yeah.
This is
I'm
not
like,
your
that's not,
turn, Nancy. Let's go. Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
that's not the sister I want to be.
Yeah.
So I listened to her and she gave me permission, like watching her, tears running down her face, bragging about her husband and her son and everything she's overcome, right? And I realized, like, damn, I've come so far. Like, I have so much to brag about in my life. And I swear, listening to her brag, it may sound ridiculous. It flipped the switch in my brain that I was like, oh, this is a good thing. Bragging is a good thing. And there's something about like bragging and acknowledging the wonder in your life that allows you to savor it. Right.
Yeah.
And so, really silly yesterday that I realized I had begun savoring life in a different way. I took my girls into Staples. My daughter was demanding art projects and I needed paper and whatever. So we go
Yeah.
in and we're walking in and I'm holding both my girls' hands because now I'm not afraid of touch and I don't mind it, right? And this woman is yelling from behind me, ma'am, ma'am, ma'am. And I'm like, what? And I turn around and there's this woman running towards me with a green piece of paper. And in my head, I'm like, I didn't drop anything. I know I don't have any green paper in my car. And there was like, I'm like, what does she want? And she's like, I have this coupon for $10 off. Like, do you want it? And
Nice.
I was like, this is one of those moments where I can like truly savor like the synchronicities and the thoughtfulness of
The
this
abundance that is all
stranger
around.
and the
Mhm.
abundance that's all around. Like, it may seem so simple, but this was like a moment of like, life is amazing. And yes, thank you so much. This is so kind of you. Like, oh my God, thank you. The light on this woman's face when I responded with like that love and that savoring, it lit her up. Like, she lit me up and she lit up
Yeah.
too. And I
Yeah.
was like, I need more of this in my life. Like, this was such a simple exchange, but like did so much for the both of us. I'm like, I savored it. I like breathed it in and I was like, yes. And then I was excited about it. And I was like, girls, we've got $10. Like, we should buy something special. And the girls got to pick out like, $12 worth of little things that like
Yeah.
little art palettes that they're so tickled about that they can print, they can paint and then display. Like, oh my gosh, so much abundance came from that one moment. It cost that stranger nothing,
Yeah.
to give me a
Yeah.
piece of paper. So I feel like I've truly leaned into what savoring life means in a different way since then. Like, and everybody's going to have their moments of like that where that light switch flips. And of course, I'm going to have moments where I'm not grateful and I'm like, but I'll come
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
I'll come back.
Yeah.
That's life. Like, life is not always going to be perfect. Like, I've got that big conversation coming up with my husband that I need to be vulnerable about. But I can savor that too, like the juiciness of that intimacy and that connection. Like, oh, there is so much. So I would love it, like if you start bragging, like, and you just start, I brag. And when you do it from a place of like reverence and love for yourself, right? And then all you can do to respond to someone who's bragging is well bragged. So simple. Just listen, well bragged, right? Like, so
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, it's just like this acknowledgement of you acknowledging the magic in your life that is so potent.
And I think you raised an important issue, at least for me, in terms of when I was listening to you. So often we don't brag because we've been taught that is not appropriate, not kind to be bragging, especially if somebody is like, you don't tell a starving person that you have you had cake, right? And so, but so often we defer our happiness or our celebration to spare other people's feelings. But really, there is a place to celebrate, right? Like, there are people that you can celebrate with that that they're going to be like, well bragged. And then when they brag, you're going to be like, well bragged, right? Like, you're both going to be your cheerleader squad. Whereas I think, I don't know, I think what I was kind of leaning into my discomfort when you were sharing that is more around, I do well bragging with people I feel safe with to well brag.
And you
And then they feel safe for us to go, high five, girl. And then there's
yeah,
other people that I know, like I'm more cautious in terms of, I don't want to make you uncomfortable or make you think that, right? So I'm just gonna, I'm not gonna talk that much about it. Like, but I don't know if what I'm leaning in with or into is like, am I then minimizing myself in that
yeah.
moment so that you will not have hurt feelings? I guess
So
that's what
there's
I have to sit with.
yeah, and I love that because, right, when you brag from a place of self-reverence and love, people can feel that. There's a difference when I go, I got 4 candy bars and you only got 2. Like that's different. Like that bragging is like,
Loser fish. Yeah.
yeah. And like when it's bragging done, and it's Sora's side and we're putting down other women,
Yeah.
that's different. That feels yucky. Everybody feels that. That's not safe. That's not good, right? That's not bragging. No,
Yeah.
that's Sora's side. That is you killing other women like energetically, emotionally, like that's a no-go. But when it's done from a place of love, and I did it for the first time yesterday with a woman at my gym who we're not super intimate about. However, there's like this camaraderie. I see her all the time. So she's like, I would call a semi-safe space. And I recognize the fact that I'm not closer to more women is because I'm not honest and I'm not truthful and I'm not intimate. I hold back a lot. And so therefore they hold back. And then I lose this place of connection and compassion. Right. And so I said it for the first time. I said, I'm going to brag. And I gave her a little brag and she was like, that's amazing. And then she's like, oh my God, like, and she had something to share with me that responded. And so in that moment, I created connection and like compassion and intimacy in this really simple moment with a brag. And I started with, I'm going to do a little brag. And I gave her my brag, but it was a place, like I had my hands on my heart and it was a place of reverence that I was sharing with her. And she saw that and reflected it back to me. So I think, reading the room, trusting yourself and knowing like, am I ready to step into this? Or is today I'm a little tired and a little quiet and I need to make myself a little small,
Yeah.
is this the right moment? And I think using that intuition, we use our intuition so much when we're parenting and going out in the world, like trust that. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, that is like the mom intuition, like there's one thing I can tell women to trust, it is that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. I could tell you stories about the mom intuition. But I just wanted to acknowledge like that what you said, like I felt like it really resonated with me. And also the story about women. So historically, I was not taught to have women friends. I had a really close best friend growing up, just kind of one person. And then my sister and I are close. She's my ride or die. But historically, with other women, I was always guarded. I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure how to show up. And I always thought it was them, right? Like, oh, they're just cliquey or whatever. And then when I realized, again, another Taylor Swift, it's me, I'm the problem, it's me. I realized, oh crap, it's me. I'm so afraid of being rejected that I'm not even allowing them to come in or to even see. And when I changed my energy and opened
Right.
myself up, people just started like, I have like, I do a book club now. Like I have so many beautiful women in my life. Some of them just like, I see once in a while, but I have so many beautiful women that I have met through this experience. And I'm like, holy crap, had I just been less afraid and less protected and seeming as if it was them that, oh, you know what, they're just not my type or they're just not my style or they're just this or that or the other. Once I was ready to be vulnerable and realize it's my energy that's putting people up,
I
right?
know.
Yeah. And then once I was able to say, no, I'm going to come with an open heart and just
Mhm.
love and just be. And it's okay because I belong to myself. So nobody can tell me I don't belong. So when I changed that about myself, I had so many people that were just like, hey, you want to do this? You want to do that? You want to? And it's like,
Uh,
wow, I could have done this earlier. I
I
wish I had
know.
known.
Had I known, like
Um,
had I known this 8 years
mm,
ago when my oldest was born, man, my parenting experience would have been wildly different if I had that sisterhood around me and that community. Because if I was willing to be vulnerable
mhm,
and honest about, who I am, right? And had compassion for all the weirdness that I was, that I was trying to squelch down,
yeah,
right? Like, it would be wildly different. My life would also be different, and I wouldn't have had the lessons I have. And, so I'm grateful for that. But, I think about, like, I have one relationship where I like look back on and I'm like, oh man, I wasn't honest or truthful. I wasn't vulnerable. I didn't love myself enough to open up. And then I lost that friendship, you know? I'm like, oof, am I brave enough? Do I have the courage to go back to that woman and be like, and own it and look at it? I don't know. I don't have the answers for that. I don't need to know right now.
yeah, yeah. We
Right.
don't need
And
to know everything at this moment. Yeah, for
no,
sure.
I
Yeah.
don't. So I think just having compassion, like, comes back to compassion,
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
I have some softness for myself. I don't need to have that hard masculine edge, that push, that go.
Yeah.
I'm
That
I'm a
grind.
feminine being. Like, I can open up to be soft and receive and revel in the creativity and the compassion and the love, like, I am a being of love. It's what we are as women, with a feminine essence. And so, oh, life is just so much richer and like worthy of being savored when
Yeah.
you come at it from a place of love and compassion. And we'll have these moments of like light switches. Like, I had a light switch moment yesterday in the parking lot of Staples.
Yeah.
So, like, right?
Not what you
Like,
think you think it's going to be meditating in your chair, and then you're like, Staples, what's going
I,
on?
I know. And I was
Yeah.
like telling my husband about it. He's like, that's amazing. Like,
Mhm.
he knew, even though it was insignificant, that it was significant.
It's
It was
always
kind of cool.
significant.
Oh yeah. And I was like, this is gonna sound really silly, but the best part of my day happened in Staples parking lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Beautiful. Beautiful.
yeah.
So we're getting kind of to the end. I have two more questions. The first
Yeah.
one is I'm asking this of all my guests
Oh
in this
boy.
season, and that is, what's your definition of unconditional love?
Oh, I love this. But I also hate this. And I think we've
There's
already
no
had
right or wrong answers, whatever flows.
this. Yeah, so my definition of unconditional love, the word unconditional love makes me bristle a little bit, because that implies that there's conditional love, and there is no conditional love. There is none. Like, all love is unconditional, so we don't need that. Right. So I prefer to say limitless love, because love to me has no bounds. Right. I've been married to my husband for 11, with him for like 15. And like, our love is only deeper. It only gets better. And so I think unconditional love or limitless love is just the ability to to know more, to learn more, to see more of truth. Right. Love is truth. And when you're willing to look at all the truths, both the pretty and the ugly, right? You deepen and widen that love, and it becomes more luscious. It comes from like this, desert like sandy love to like rich, chocolatey, creamy with cherry sauce and like thick frosting and just like yumminess, right? So it has no bounds when you're willing to see truth.
Oh, powerful. Very love that. Love that. The other question, which is our final question, is where can people find you? I know that you said you're going through a shift in your business. However, I do feel that once you let go and relax, things that you're supposed to do will naturally come to you. So where can people reach out to chat with you, even if they have a question
Oh, I
or
love
they
that.
just want to find out more about what your journey, what it brings next? Where can
Yeah.
people reach out to you?
So you can find me on Instagram And my handle is my name, Mariah G. Kimball. So I'm on Instagram a lot. You'll see all sorts of, cheeky things and fun things. And I also have a website, which isn't going anywhere, but I'm sure I know it's going to shift. And you can find me at mariahscrystallibrary.com. And those are the two main places.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Mariah, for this amazing conversation. It was really, I kind of actually lost track of time. It was beautiful, and it was vulnerable, and it was so authentic, and it made me remember so many different parts of my own journey. And so I'm deeply grateful that you were able to share that part of yourself with us. And maybe we can come back. Maybe you can come back when you're at a different stage of your journey, and then we could talk about what the next stage for Mariah is.
Oh, I would love that. It was an honor, such an honor to be here today. Thank you so much for having me.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Love and Compassion podcast with Giselle.